On today's show, product allocation and deferred income annuities. Part 3 of this week's series on annuity solutions with nationally recognized annuity expert Mike McLaughlin. Hi everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and contributing author and a backroom technician in Innsbruck. Let's get down to business. Welcome to the show, Mike.
It's great to be here.
Day 3, I appreciate it. I'm still surviving after yesterday's temporary life period certain introduction, which is really an old product, but a whole new idea, and it's really taking on some, I think, some gravitas out in the market right now. People are really attracted to it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great idea.
Well, today we're talking about product allocation, and as it relates back to the products that we want to talk about today, but I find this interesting. 4% was the Vanguard return on any asset allocation model for retirement. So when we said, okay, I don't want to touch my principal, I want to just earn 4%, and that earning 4% has not materialized.
No.
I mean, for the most part. And to make it materialize, the actual beta risk on top of that is an issue.
Yeah, I think that when you take a look at what the actual distribution rate is that needs to be in place in order to make sure that someone has past longevity, I think the number that people are beginning to come to get some consensus with is about 2.8%.
It's below 3?
Below 3, which
Wow.
is a staggering number when you think about how many people are taking 5%, 4% from late 80s when we were having great returns. In today's current interest rate environment and with today's market volatility, 2.8 is probably the closer number.
I would say the average American cannot survive on 2.8 because their size of their portfolio isn't like, we're not talking about upper affluent clients here, we're talking about middle America.
Talking about middle America, exactly.
Well, I know we have a solution for it, but walk me through the issue here because I think this is huge, and I think I might have to write a blog on this because we're depending on numbers that don't exist any longer. That's the bigger issue. And we have to reconfigure our thinking and bring to reality, and you said what, 2.85? I'm staggered by that number.
Yeah.
Walk me through this.
Well, you mentioned this is just middle America. This is someone that are both age 62. They need about $50,000 of income, and they can expect about $20,000 per year from Social Security. With the traditional 4% withdrawal rate on 100% of their portfolio, that would easily generate $30,000 of income. So combine that with their Social Security, they have a comfortable lifestyle. Now, there's questions about inflation protection. Social Security will index for inflation, but that $30,000 may or may not. It's dependent upon the investment portfolio. If you want to make sure that you have above the 4% withdrawal, you're going to have to take more risk. At age 62, I'm not sure whether you really want to take a whole lot of risk. So what we spend a lot of time talking about is, from an investment professional and from a lot of advisors, they spend a significant amount of time talking about asset allocation. What I think that the conversation needs to change to is product allocation. Your allocation should not change only because of risk tolerance. That's the only reason why it should change. So what we've done here in our solution is we've taken a single premium immediate annuity, joint life with a cash refund option. Okay, now think about that. Steve and Linda are both going to get $9,000 a year for the rest of both of their lives. If both of them die before that $150,000 is used up, their beneficiaries get whatever is left over. So really no different than an investment portfolio. Then we take a look at a guaranteed minimum withdrawal benefit, whether it's on a variable annuity chassis or whether it's on a fixed indexed annuity chassis. We're going to put about $100,000 into that and probably pull out about a 5% annual withdrawal rate or a $5,000. What that does, Steve, is that takes that number that needs to come down off the mutual fund or the assets under management down to $16,000, which is now down to 3.2% annual rate of return of a withdrawal rate. So just by switching the product allocation a little bit, we have reduced the pressure on the investment portfolio by 80 basis points or about 20%.
You know, I'm suspicious that our old way of thinking on product allocation in the de-accumulation phase. I mean, I think sometimes when I see these product allocations, I'm thinking everybody's still accumulating. They're in this accumulating mode. They're not thinking income generating. They're not thinking de-accumulation.
Right.
So when we're suggesting that we can get pretty close to, we can get to 3.2. We're not at 2.85, but we're getting down there.
Yeah, but maybe we just have to juice this up in current interest rates environment to 175,000. We can play around with that with our product allocation without changing the asset allocation of the mutual fund, so that we're not getting more risk for Steve and Linda in their pure investment portfolio.
Now you mentioned something, though, that was very important. In our deaccumulation phase, our beta risk should change. I mean, because even though we have a longevity risk, I don't know how much I want to stay in the market. I don't know what that is. So I heavily suggest, and we have documents for this, I have a test that I do, a risk tolerance test, that we share with a lot of people that you should really take to really see where your client's at. Go through that risk tolerance. That number could be a lot less, and maybe we can get to a better return.
Absolutely.
Well, when we come back from the break, we're going to continue talking about this. I want to talk more about DIAs, and even though it's an old product, we're reintroducing it again, and we're going to use products like this to help in product asset allocation modeling. We'll be right back after the break. Back in the day, life insurance professionals were called field underwriters. Then, carriers trained their field force in the basics of life insurance underwriting. Today, the insurance industry doesn't educate the agent population as they once did. But now you can have the Informed Risk Guide at your fingertips so you can illustrate a reasonable rate class for your life insurance prospects. Just request your copy of the Informed Risk Guide at downtobusiness.ashbrokerage.com. It's free from Ash Brokerage, the practice enhancement company. Well, welcome back to our second segment. Mike, we're walking through some of the delayed income annuity carriers that we play with. And before we get into the specific carriers, again, deferred annuities, that definition is I have to hold at least what? A minimum of 1 year.
1 year.
But it could be 20 years. It could be 30 years.
Yeah.
So we can shop block. I was out at Canex 2 days ago looking at the DIAs, deferred income annuities, and looking at what's going on in that marketplace and watching. It changes so much. 1 year can change something so dramatically. And we're now using this, inserting it into retirement modeling, and it is really coming up with some numbers that are astounding.
Yeah. I always tell people, it's difficult to place that because you have to do it week by week to make sure that you're doing it right. But the advantage of that is if you do your homework up front, you don't have to worry about it for the rest of your life, and you're not working or worrying about rates of return for the next 23 years of retirement.
Well, walk me through some of these product lines, because there's some players, and I mean big names have now went into this marketplace.
Absolutely. You take a look at the size of the market, and unlike a lot of our other annuity product lines, whether it's the single premium immediate or whether it's the fixed indexed annuity, this really only has about 6 particular carriers. And ING is a little bit of an anomaly there because it's actually an indexed annuity chassis, but it looks, feels, smells like a deferred income. But you're looking at all the major players here of American General, ING, Lincoln National, New York Life, Principal, and then Symetra as well, with all kinds of different options, whether it be joint, period certain, just like you would have a single premium immediate.
Let's talk about that, because I am so surprised, and I have to say, when I went on a Canex, I say, let's try period certain, let's try life only, let's try life with a period certain, let's do cash refund, let's do installment. I cannot believe little tweaks and adjustments with different variable options can make such a difference, and to the client's betterment.
Absolutely.
I mean, walk me through some of the basic ones, because most of these are pretty straight up that we've already known before. And I'm interested, have you seen a difference between cost of living increase versus tying it to the CPI?
What we typically see is just a straight 1 to 3% increase. Here with American General, we do have a CPI cost of increase, or you can choose just a straight cost of living increase between 1 and 3%, and you can choose it simple or compounded. And again, that little difference between a simple or a compounding can make a big difference on the deposit that's required to generate X amount of dollars. But certainly there's a significant difference here between a cash refund and an installment refund, and that can be significantly different depending upon ages because of lump sum versus having to pay that out for the rest of the year, for the rest of the next 30 years if there's a premature death.
Now, just as a regular, I mean, if I'm an advisor and I'm coming to you because you're one of the lead authorities in the United States on these products, I come to you and I say, I don't know, I just want the best idea for my client. How many iterations do you and your team go through to come up with the best overall income scenario?
Boy, sometimes they seem limitless. And what we try to take a look at is how do we understand what the client's going to do and how do we create most leverage, whether that is through temporary life, whether that is through a straight SPIA, an income rider, or something like a deferred income where we're trying to get assets under management and then protecting longevity by placing a DIA post-life expectancy. I think one of the most underutilized tools or concepts with the DIA market is if you're an asset manager, you can pretty much, with Monte Carlo analysis, define with almost near 100% probability of getting a certain amount of rate of return over a 15 or 20-year period. So you manage those assets, but then on the back end of that period, you're going to stick a deferred income annuity to make sure that if you do run out of money, that's there in the back. But you have a finite amount of time and a finite amount of money to play with. Now, that's a great tool.
We're introducing this to the registered rep market now, telling them this could be the backstop in case your actual Monte Carlo theory doesn't actually get to mortality.
Absolutely.
So now we're looking at, I'm just starting to see openness in the registered rep world where this becomes this backstop. Well, I made it to what I thought his expectations were going to be in mortality. Oh my goodness, it's went past that. And so now we're protecting the back end of that.
Absolutely. I think Tom Hegna has a great stat where 63% of the plans actually fail when they get to age 90. So we're seeing a lot of registered reps saying, I don't want to have that liability and I don't want to have that conversation down the road. It's not the year that you run out of money, it's the years running up to money that are stressful and cause pain and start shifting families to move in with one another, all kinds of different things. And this is a great tool to make sure that that longevity is protected.
If you've seen the Prudential commercial where they pull the ribbon from the center to look at human longevity, and several of those people in that commercial were 70, 73, 75, that became the most visual of what retirement's really going to be. And that's why I like DIAs as a backstop to that whole idea. Well, when we come back tomorrow, we're going to talk about all of this. That's all the time we have today. Remember, before moving forward with any of the ideas on our show, always consult your tax advisor, legal counsel, or your broker-dealer compliance officer. Missed an episode? You can go out and view any of our past episodes at downtobusiness.ashbrokerage.com. And remember, you could be wiser as an Ash Brokerage advisor. I'm Steve Savant. We'll see you tomorrow.